Here's Brody Brazil.
Well, it's been a little bit more than a week since the A's released their renderings for the brand new projected Las Vegas baseball stadium. These are the first ever images. They came out the same day that SB 509 was introduced. There's only really 3 images to look at, but since I've digested them, marinated them a little bit, I've come to realize there's at least 5 things missing with these renderings. Now, some of them more important than others, but given that this is all we have to go on for an idea, a concept of what might exist, what might happen with $1.5 total billion and $380 million of public funding, it is kind of important to have some idea of where this is going. But let me first say about renderings, they're kind of like profile pictures versus reality. Yeah. In a sense that renderings always accentuate the best parts and kind of leave out the business details. Yeah, that's my profile picture. I think that was snapped in early 2020. And I believe on that very early morning when they took this photo, I was made up before spring training, the media day photo shoot. And I think it's also been touched up even since then. But the picture on the right was taken with my iPhone during 2020. That's hard reality right there. Believe it or not, those are the same 2 people side by side. But that's my point about renderings versus reality. And that's the nature of renderings, right? They never actually depict. It's rare that they're identical to a before and after photo, so to speak. And yeah, I'm living proof. I wanted to use myself as that example. But looking at the renderings here, it's missing anything that's tied to the A's history. For example, in the Howard Terminal renderings, out there in center field, you know what that is. I mean, you don't even need a good detail. I mean, that's very pixelated. I zoomed all the way in. That's Ricky Henderson, obviously. The silhouette, him running. Now, it's weird that he's running left to right. I guess maybe that's a center field view. Anyway, most of the images I have of Ricky would be running right to left, like home plate catcher view of him stealing second or stealing third. But I digress. But they were planning to put a Ricky Henderson statue out in center field of the Howard Terminal ballpark. In Las Vegas, you can see that it's just an A with fountains. Now, maybe this is intentional. Maybe there's a plan to do something different. But I'll tell you this, twofold. Number one, probably smart move to keep the renderings just generic for now. But number two, if you were to put a Ricky Henderson statue at a brand new Las Vegas ballpark, from day one, I'd have a hard time. And I love Ricky Henderson. And I love Ricky Henderson Field, in Oakland, his home. Technically, I believe born in Chicago, but Oakland. Raised, not born, but raised in Oakland. If you're going to translate that to Las Vegas, I think a lot of people are going to have an issue with that here in Northern California. So I don't know that the renderings are missing this like a mistake, but certainly there's not a lot of Oakland A's deep level stuff in these renderings. There's no signs of history or tradition. It's missing a lot of that. Again, and some of this is by design. I'm not here to critique that. I'm just saying that you notice, with the Howard Terminal renderings, there were people wearing jerseys of Stu and 34 on the back, and Raleigh with his number on the back. So there were local ties here in these renderings, and we've only seen 3, and none are to tremendous detail. I mean, there's a Tony Kemp image on the scoreboard out there, but there's no actually historical Oakland A's ties, and yeah, maybe it should be that way. Maybe that's the best way to do this for now. Okay, the renderings are also missing a significant amount of scale. Now, you're looking at the Tropicana site here, which I've kind of outlined in gold or yellow. Maybe that's more yellow, but that's 35 acres right there. That's what 35 acres look like on a square block at the intersection of Tropicana Avenue and Las Vegas Boulevard. So 35 total acres. Now, I know it's a little bit deceiving because the stadium is elevated up above it, so it kind of appears out of that rectangle, but that is the footprint, right? And I'm assuming that ballpark right there fits obviously on the 35 acres. Problem is, the A's are only getting 9 acres to build their stadium. And when you superimpose what should be about 9 acres, it's hard to see all that fitting there. I mean, clearly all of that parking area, that's not going to be there. And by the way, I'll save that for a different slide here. That's another thing on my list of, 5 things missing. But even fitting the stadium for just a second, forget what goes around it. I mean, that plaza area, the whole corner, this looks like the A's took over the entire 35-acre property, which is clearly not a reality. Bally's is giving them 9 acres so Bally's can do something else productive and make their remaining 26 acres even more valuable and appealing. So scale, I would say, is a big deal here of the way it appears versus the way it actually is. I also want to add in one more thing. It's very possible that these renderings, the 3 which I have here and the 3 that were published a little more than a week ago, it's possible that these are 3 months, 6 months, maybe even a year old. And at that point, when they were asked to be designed, maybe they were put together with the thought that, well, we don't know what Bally's is going to do. Maybe we'll take over the whole Tropicana site. So in fairness, like what is being shown to us might be well outdated. But also, it's well outdated and does not reflect the actual size or scope of the project. So I can't figure out why these came out like this with a level of detail and scale that's not accurate. Here's another interesting one. And look, this is the nature of renderings. Can't be too critical about this. I can only point it out and say, look at the upper deck. That's like 400 seats across between aisles. So I'm not a rendering person. I don't do this professionally, but clearly you have the ability to put in proper aisles. The lower decks look okay, I suppose, in terms of their dimensions and width and scale. Those upper decks, maybe they're like 100 seats across, but you get my point. And also this, for a stadium that seats only 30,000, is it true that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5 decks? It seems like a lot of vertical components. Now, maybe to fit on the 9-acre footprint, it has to be that way. Maybe. But 4 decks for 30,000 fans is a lot. You ever been to Fenway or Wrigley? I mean, that's comparable. It's not that way at either of those ballparks, those early 1900s ballparks. But yeah, I'm not being too critical on this. I'm just saying kind of an oversight in the rendering here as you really zoom in and look at the stadium and say, what is going on with that upper deck? It also kind of looks like it's floating up there, but I digress, not important. Okay, overall scope of the land. We showed you the size of it before. And the one thing I talked about is the remaining 26 acres. Like, what is actually going to surround the ballpark? If it's not going to be a parking lot, isn't it probably going to be a Bally's mega resort? Will they call it Tropicana 2? Look, that is the plan, to entirely demolish the existing Tropicana Hotel. 2 towers, all of the other structures surrounding it, entirely leveled, pushed over, so that Bally's can take their 26 plus acres or whatever and build something brand new. And I had heard the speculation of 3 separate high rises, even if it's 2. You would imagine the space and the footprint that it takes up here is similar to this. Oh my goodness. And again, I go back to the fact that is probably lost on people. Bally's is giving away 9 free acres so that they can do this. This is inevitably part of the plan. So just to say that when the rendering of this comes out, like, this is not at all how the project will ever look, maybe for the first 6 months or year until this is under construction. And I don't know the timing. Does this go up first? This goes up next? It seems like the current Tropicana Hotel site might sit for a bit, even while, this is starting construction or grading or whatever else. So again, I don't know the origin of that, but the reality of that is probably a lot more accurate. I mean, it definitely is way more accurate than that. And I think Bally's Corporation, if they ever got the chance, would probably be the first to let you know. And last, this is least, because I don't think this is really important at all, but I didn't see any bullpens in the renderings. And you know what's crazy about that? In the Howard Terminal renderings, they also missed bullpens. Why do design architects, or who comes up with renderings? Professional renderers, why do they always forget the bullpens? I think maybe that's what that is, right down the left field line. But here's the other thing. The other red arrow points to that left field fence. Now, in right field, it's proportionately higher. But if we're taking a look at that left fielder and that left fielder's height, average height, what is that, a 4-foot fence in left field? Are you going to be able to jump over that left field fence? Again, it's just one thing where maybe as a sports person, as a baseball person, I look at that and say, what are we doing here? Did anybody think about fixing that or just, tidying that up a little bit? No bullpens, no actual left field fence. So there you go. 5 things that are maybe missing or not entirely accurate. Again, renderings are renderings. They are conceptual by nature. But in this case, there's a couple things that were left out, a couple things that are maybe not accurate, a couple things which, honestly are maybe outdated and or misleading. So just wanted to point those out. Let me know what you think about this video in the comments section below. Don't forget, thumbs up on it. I mean, hey, you watched here all the way to the end, which I appreciate. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel so that I can see you next time.